live on a Wednesday night, and we are looking to set you up, not just for tonight, but throughout the week. And last week, right, if we were, looking for early lines, you want to beat the number, Jets +7, great piece of closing line value. Meant a whole lot of nothing when they actually played the game, as Buffalo, from the word go, was on it. Next thing you know, Fields has a concussion. He's out of the game, and the Jets now feel in a very weird spot, and they've already ruled out Justin Fields for this weekend in Tampa Bay. To get a better sense around this football team, as somebody who knows him as well as anybody, that's Jake Asman, host of the Jake Asman Show. He's joined us here before on Game Time Decisions. Jake, appreciate you making some time. It'd be great if we were talking about a 1-1 football team. How do they bounce back? Vibes not as high.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Just think about how different the vibes would be if Chris Boswell doesn't hit from 60+ and the Jets actually beat Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers in week 1, or if Xavier Gibson doesn't cough away the football on a kickoff that ends up costing him his job. I think the Jets win going away if that happens. Instead, you're 0-2, you're already on your backup quarterback, and you're about a touchdown underdog on Sunday against your old coach and a really good quarterback in Baker Mayfield. So it's crazy how quick things change. That being said, this is the adversity that Aaron Glenn is going to have to deal with, right? I mean, people were very high after that loss to Pittsburgh, calling it a moral victory, some even said. But now you're in a spot where, who really cares about your moral victory? You're 0-2, and everything you built up in that quote-unquote moral victory in week 1, it goes out the window with how poorly they came out and played against the Buffalo Bills. So they're dealing with a lot of adversity, Kevin, and for a first-time coach in Aaron Glenn, we're really going to get an early look on what he's made of.
Where are you at, Jake, on the fact that Tyrod is going to go out there? Because he's one of the backup quarterbacks. Look, sometimes you get a backup quarterback where it's like, oh, please don't make me watch this. That's not Tyrod Taylor. I think the last time Jake joined us was on the Justin Fields tore his ACL, oh, wait, he's fine day. And we were already signing up for months and months of Tyrod. Tyrod is a guy that you feel like with respect to Fields, is it that definitively worse? What do you make of the quarterback situation?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, honestly, if you tell me you have one game to win and you could either pick Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor, if you guarantee me Tyrod's going to make it through the game, right? Because we know he's had a ton of injury concerns in his career. He might be the better quarterback just because you kind of know more what you're going to get. The floor for Tyrod, I think, is way higher than Fields. Now, the ceiling for Fields is way higher. We saw that week 1. He had the best game of his life. His full talent was really on display as not just an elite runner, but he was making some pinpoint throws, and he was making throws on the run. And then he looked like Zach Wilson 2.0 on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. So he had his best game ever, and then maybe his worst game ever in consecutive weeks. And that's kind of, in a microcosm, the Justin Fields experience. Whereas Tyrod, you look at his career, I mean, the guy's been a 500 quarterback in his career. He is a solid NFL starter. He's a guy that when he has played, he's competent, and he can go out there. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's not going to be afraid to take chances and throw downfield. So I expect the Jets passing game to be a lot more effective this week. Plus, it's hard to be any worse than they were last week, right? So I don't know if it's a big downgrade. Obviously, Fields has the higher ceiling. He's 26. You're trying to find out if he can maybe, be your long-term starter. But for a Jets team that's just trying to get a win and try and build something with Aaron Glenn and get things going here with a new regime, I think Tyrod, you could argue, maybe gives him a better chance to actually go on the road and win this game on Sunday.
Well, then let's live in the optimistic land, which then creates problems. And you know this, Jake. And this is where the New York media stuff comes in. Tyrod wins the game. Fields is good from the concussion. Dolphins on deck on a Monday night. Is it as simple as Fields gets the job back, or do we have a controversy budding?
Well, let me say this. As a Jet fan, I hope there is a quarterback controversy because that probably means, obviously, right, that Tyrod played well and they won.
Yeah.
I think they would prefer to go back to Fields for some of the things we talked about, right? The upside of his game, 26. Do we have something long-term? Yeah. But if Tyrod plays well, right, and they win because of him, it's not just like an ugly, low-scoring game and the Jets defense makes some turnovers and, they win ugly, then I think maybe they just go back to Fields no matter what. But if he looks good, right, then I think maybe they roll with Tyrod for another game. And for those saying, well, what about Fields? Well, unfortunately, if you look at Tyrod Taylor's career, he gets hurt a lot. So there's going to be a moment where he's probably going to be banged up, and then you go back to Justin Fields anyway. I don't know definitively what the Jets would do. I just hope we get to debate it because that means they've probably won the game on Sunday. And, you can start to talk yourself into, hey, you're playing the Dolphins the week after. All of a sudden, can you be 2-2 and maybe try and give your fans, a fun month of football where the schedule does soften up after the Jets bye week. And then all of a sudden, maybe you could be in the hunt. I think that's the goal for most Jet fans. Like, make it to December, still mathematically alive. But you got to win games, man. You start 0-3, it could start to really spiral.
The interesting piece, Jake, for this football team is if I would have told you in week 1 they score 32, you not for a second would have thought, oh, they might have lost that game. The Jets have now allowed 30 in each of the first 2 games. It's 2 games, but the defense is supposed to be not just a calling card with the roster. That's what Aaron Glenn is brought in for. Are you seeing real signs of concern, or Rodgers was on it, Bills are really good? No, don't panic on that side of the football yet.
Look, I don't want to say that, they're doomed, but I think the defense is definitely a concern because let's remember, this is a Jets defensive unit that has 8 of its 11 starters back year over year. Their head coach is a defensive-minded coach. Their coordinator, Steve Wilks, has been a DC for a long time in the NFL. So the thought process going into the year, Kevin, was this defense is going to have to lead the way as Justin Fields and company are learning a new offensive scheme, and there could be some growing pains there. The defense has the continuity. It's a new scheme for them too, but I think we all expected the Jet defense to play a lot better. They've yet to force a turnover through the first 2 games, and how concerning is it? You watch Aaron Rodgers go out there and play great against them in week 1, and then what happened in week 2 when the Steelers came home? They only scored 17 points. So you have to be at least a little concerned, I think, even if you're the most optimistic Jet fan about this unit, because a lot of the players that have been really good, like a Quincy Williams or Jamie Sherwood, Michael Carter, these guys have all been bad. Plus their big free agent signing at corner, Brandon Stevens, who replaced DJ Reed, he's been terrible so far. And even Sauce Gardner had an awful game last week against the Bills. So long answer to your question, but I do think there is some legit concerns for the Jet defense right now.
Which, again, but it's important to know, right? Because this is a team who's opening the game against the Steelers was a total sub 40 for week 1. I mean, that was stunning. Now, 2 weeks is a bit of a trend. I think it's a big thing to keep our eyes on. Jake, I'll leave you with this because I think it's something that I'm keeping my eye on. Maybe you think I'm way off base here, and that's fine. Please tell me. Breece Hall performances, I think, matter no matter how good the Jets are until the trade deadline passes. Because let's take the Chiefs, for example. Everyone's talking about how awful that rush attack is. Well, could Breece Hall be a game changer for them? I think it's on the board. Do you think Breece Hall is something to monitor, not just in relation to the Jets, but around the league?
Definitely if they're out of it, right? Like if the Jets are 2-7 at the bye week and you have a running back who's on the last year of his deal, I could see the scenario where, maybe the Jets would at least listen on some trade offers for Breece. I don't expect it because I do think this team is going to be able to, win enough games where Aaron Glenn's not going to want to trade away one of his most dynamic weapons. I think Breece Hall, the guy we saw in week 1 was the guy that we saw a couple of years ago that was on his way to winning the Rookie of the Year before he got hurt. A guy that in 2023, coming off an ACL injury, was second in the NFL in yards from scrimmage behind just Christian McCaffrey at his position. So I don't think we're there yet, but if they're out of it and he's a free agent, all of a sudden they could get something for him. It's not the craziest thought at all.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch, I think. Jake Asman, host of the Jake Asman Show. Jake, we really appreciate it. Best of luck watching the game against Tampa Bay.
I'm going to be there in person, so hopefully it's not too painful.
At least that weather will be A-OK.